Hey guys, I'm back with not Bantercast, but a discussion video. I'm here with one of my friends and co-hosts. Say hi.
Hello, this is Zodiacal Void. Glad to be here again, Blobs.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about something that some people may or may not agree with, but it's our opinion, so oh well. I mean, we're going to be talking about FRs and talking about, how they are currently. I mean, there's going to be positives and negatives. And probably, if people don't like our opinions, that's we can't appeal to everyone. These are just our own opinions. But the main things we're talking about is or F, like where FR has been wrong. Because right now, I think FRs are not they're strong, but it also created an unintentional. It caused a problem as well with kind of like power scaling right now, and counteractions with devs making bosses in responses to our current power. Um, but the first thing is where exactly in FR era did it kind of start unintentionally spiking and the game became, I don't know, easier, and at what points did the devs have to un, kind of push back and make bosses to counter our current power. So
Yeah,
in my opinion, I think we're the beginning when FRs were introduced, some would say oh, okay, Kane's FR is so bad. With how the HP of bosses when they were first introduced in Shinryu, it was 50, 60 million. Wasn't too bad. Um, there's some good, some bad FRs. At the time, in retrospect, without looking into the future, like people FRs like Cryo, where her skill 1 would increase the FR gauge by, I don't know, 80%, but not do any damage. At the time, seemed insane. Um, but it didn't do any damage, so it was there to just boost up the FR percentages by a big chunk. But then I think where it went wrong was when the community found interactions with Cam's FR where you started to reliably increase the FR percentages 80+% each attack with Chase. What do you think, Zodi? Or do you disagree?
yeah, no, that, like you said, around that time it was generally balanced. I think the reason why Kane's looked so underwhelming on paper as first is he's guaranteed increase every turn, and with launch initiated. And like you said, they just did not seem to look into all the possibilities of Cam's interactions, and because of that, I agree. The what was intended as small percentage gains turned out to be this huge amounts at once. Well, you went from 5 a turn to 80. That's a significant jump. So I agree. It was
Mm.
as soon as Cam came around.
Now, at one point, do you think that, in your opinion, did the devs start pushing back in terms of big spikes of HP or mechanics that they chose to make to increase the difficulty in response, or just, I don't know if it's obviously this is may or may not be intended or unintended, but in our opinion, when did the devs start kind of pushing back in response?
I would say probably Fujin, although I want to say Odin. I know some people would say, well, Odin's easy. You just bring Machina, he goes burr. Well, in JP, when he first came out, a lot of people didn't know about these strats, of course, because he actually posed a bit of a challenge. I remember everyone saying he was sort of one of the top fights, and over time they changed their opinion on that. So, like I said, I probably would say Fujin
Hmm.
is when they really started to counter that, especially with her HP, how high it was on those bosses. What was it, close to 200 million?
Yeah. Wait, you said Tifa?
Fujin.
Fujin.
Fujin's when I feel like they started to counter us with higher HP thresholds. I wouldn't say some of the mechanics in that fight were a little bit absurd too, wasn't it? If they broke you, they delay you or something like that. It was all I remember is it had a reputation. It was one of the tankier ones, even with Cam, at least on release. I could be wrong. This comment could have aged poorly. Somebody probably was gonna come around and beat it in like 20 turns with like Cam and Machina or something. But I remember at release it was considered one of the hardest fights in the game, one of the tankiest fights in the game, because we had a huge HP like jump.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think where like the HP spike and difficulty increases like dramatically is when, I mean, I'm gonna go pretty far ahead, but like with Tifa, when we had our
Oh
first
yeah,
Spiritus, where we had the HP spike of like 200 million, and boss mechanics where your boss cannot be delayed, broken. What else was there? I think those are the main ones. There's some other
yeah,
like
no,
mechanics they had with it. I can't think of.
yeah. I mean, it started entering into the era where they were really trying to push like they noticed they had an issue, so they were either doing a lot of elemental lockouts or they really tried to push the featured unit like the Dargan event. Yeah, you could use a Fujin Call or a Bart's BT effect in conjunction with whatever unit. But that's still, like that's really limited on options of what you could do. Yeah, sure, frantic units also exist, but you had to use an FR that was physical and enchanted with wind. I remember them experimenting a lot with that as well. I know that's not the same as tanky bosses, but it was throwing in a lot of mechanics to help circumvent a lot of these powerful FR units, powerful FR effects they released, and trying to make you go into a different route. That's how I felt, at
Yeah.
least at the time. They were trying to nudge players towards a different units. It ended up not working, of course.
Yeah,
Because a lot of the
and
times it was just elements were, locked out, so nobody wanted to test out some of these other units. Why do that when Tifa has 9 plus HP dumps on her skills?
yeah. I mean, we're gonna probably mention Tifa quite a bit, but I don't think Tifa was the big problem. I think the main problem
No.
stemmed from something that happened in the very, very beginning, which was FR chargers, like making your FR gauge go burr very quickly. Characters like Pinello, Iggy, even characters like Braska, as anyone who has instant turn rate skill with FR passives, just charge your FR gauge ridiculously fast, and the meta unfortunately became you keep spamming the skill until your FR gauge is really high, set up with your BT plus skills, and then set up with your FR, and then get your summit, get your chase ready, whoever that might be, whether Sid Reigns or a Selfie, and then you just try to one-shot the boss or take out the rest of the boss's HP with the BT phase, and worst comes to worst, if they don't die from that, go immediately into summon. Summon should be doing a big enough chunk, and then you just finish off the boss.
Yeah, and that becomes sort of the tried and true strategy. I know a lot of people called Lufinia Plus garbage time. I really feel like this era was more of a garbage time than that. And even then, yeah, that also had some challenging fights. And sure, we have maybe about like 5 fights that come to mind I would consider really challenging, or at least semi-challenging in the Shinryu area. But it just, like you said, a lot of it is just you gotta charge your gauge before the boss. It becomes a race about who reaches that threshold first. And then if it's like a boss that has immortality, where you can't deal any damage to it or it won't die, you just reset and try again.
Or you just have to just
Like,
wait it out if you feel like you don't want to wait on it, or you're confident that you can wait on it. But
yeah, there's that too.
the problem isn't just that the FR chargers. I mean, some people could just say, "Hey, just don't bring it. You don't have to use them if you don't want to." But then you come to fights that where the bosses of the FR charge so fast, and if they get to certain percentages, then they just start locking you out, or start becoming very intrusive. Like you're not able to do damage, or they lock a lot of elements out, or the bosses start cutting in or warping or whatever, or you just do no damage. That might happen, and it becomes pressure to use FR chargers, and you'll see this pretty often after Luna Freya's cycle comes out. You start seeing this kind of trend happening, and then more so even later and later is like this becomes pretty common into even now in the JP.
Yeah.
I mean, right now we kind of have a sort of kind of a band-aid fix, which is if you bring 3 boosted characters, then your FR gauge starts out like at 50% charge already, or if you bring 1 or 2, 1 is already 10% charged, 2 is 30% charge. But then, you still don't have to bring them for it, but if you can, right, we're stopping you from still going burr. But the same kind of argument can be like, oh, just don't bring them. I think the devs want us to try not to stray away from that tactic as much as they can, but they kind of just still tack on that mechanic just to say, hey, don't do that.
Yeah, there was a time where they were countering that, but then they just sort of gave up on that too. Like, they'd have the enemies that charge their gauges really fast. Like, I think there was the what are they called? The airmen's or whatever they are?
Yeah,
the eyeball guys?
One boss I can think of that especially did that, which was if you got too greedy, then they would just straight up just make it so that you can't gain buffs or whatever. I think that was the Transcendence with Renoa right after... Yeah, that's the event with Renoa. It's gonna look like some small behemoths.
Oh yeah, that event.
I don't know. I mean, obviously people don't like having power taken away or whatnot, but I personally think that a way to kind of like solve like FR charges being as overpowered as they are, because let's be honest, they're ridiculously strong and it's causing on like bot devs, including mechanics that have to slow us down. I think just like diminishing returns, like for those who don't know, in some games there are like devs will incorporate diminishing returns where like the first time you use like a certain mechanic, it's going to feel normal, but then the more you keep using it, the percentage of the gains you get slowly start dropping off. Like, let's say you use Selfie's skill 2 and charge the FR. It goes up by 10%. Next time you charge it, it go like up to 5%, then 2%, then 1%. Enough to where like you start noticing that you're just wasting skills at that point, or delaying the turns. So at that point, I think that's a good fix.
No, that would definitely help encourage different play styles. Another thing I think they would have to fix as well is how the multipliers work. I know that's definitely a controversial thing, because I know they're gotcha weapons, so I don't know how you would go around implementing something like that. But I'll use Wool as an example. They did find ways to circumvent his power, which I did appreciate, as crazy as that sounds, because I did pull for his FR weapon because I wanted to use him initially before I knew his meta. And yeah, he was they got around his shield cheesing, but I mean for other stages where, like, say the enemy, like we had the Cloud of Darkness stage, the one where she kept delaying you. Well, he makes that a joke now if you went back and did it, and any future stage that has a similar mechanic that targets a character and, keeps pushing him back, like, I'll use this, we'll, procs the enemy. They target him, they keep pushing him back. Well, every time they're pushing him back, and say you're getting delayed constantly, he's going to be getting, what is it, like 60, 70 per hit, per time they hit him. And that's going to get you up to that 99% threshold really fast on your multiplier. So if there's some way they can, I don't know, just weaken that slightly, it might also help with the game balance, because why would you pull for another tank that doesn't do something like that on a stage where an enemy targets you like that? Like, why would you bring, anyone else? They need to make units feel more unique without them having a mechanic that's easily exploitable like that.
Or just having
I don't
them just have big FR percentage numbers and then making big numbers for the sake of big numbers, because some certain characters like niches become kind of irrelevant if right now this is just a damage race. I'm gonna say that Tifa's damage is too much for the game, even now. And we're talking about FR echoes in a bit, but I don't think they're healthy for the game.
No, same.
In my opinion, FR percentages should not have been more than 45 to 50%, and we shouldn't have been able to reach up to like 700 or 800%. I'm only in like super niche cases if that would have been possible, but it's just that at this point the damage has been done. We have to the new cap is going to be literally the FR cap, and as a result the boss's HP are still going to have to increase or skyrocket. Hopefully the devs don't increase the FR percentage to be 9,999, because I don't think that's going to be healthy.
No, that's you're gonna get astronomically spongy bosses that just will not die if you're FR gauge, and then it would probably be like a one shot to the end kind of FR string with your party and then your friend unit. And yeah, like you said, I just don't think that'd be healthy.
I mean, my opinion is for Tifa and like how she's part of many other problems, which is her damage ceiling is like out of like 100, she's like 8, so she's like 90. And well, I think that the devs were probably intending to like have everyone be around like 50 to 70 at most. But with FR Echoes being introduced, her like damage ceiling went from, I don't know, 90 to 110, something that's just like exaggerated right now. But yeah, her damage is too good. Her BT scales really well, but then characters that like Strago or can't repeat his FR for some reason, but Tifa is able to pretty much deal her FR numbers hugely in proportion. But I'm just complaining for the sake of complaining, but I don't. Yeah, I just don't think that the damage numbers were needed to be that much, because already some of our friends and some of our Discord stopped playing Defu because the strategy is the same. You charge the FR gauge and then nuke the bosses. The only time you only see the mechanics is when they become impressive.
Yeah, no, pretty much. Like you said, it's just like it's an FR charge race, and it's just bring big DPS, go burr, which I mean, a lot of people like. And if it is a stage you can't let DPS just go right away, you just bring best counter unit in the game and just counter and counter. And hey, if you're like, oh well, I want to do the niche strategy, well, guess what? You could do that too. It may not be as fun though. Or not as fun, it may not be as viable because of all the lockouts and whatnot. Like, say you want to use Ferris on a stage for a counter unit, well, I can guarantee you're not going to get as much, you're not going to get nearly as far as the player who uses, like, Tifa or whatnot. I don't know.
I mean, we're just picking on Tifa because she's the one that comes into mind, and she's the powerhouse #1 DPS, but we can the same could be applied to like Terra or any of the other characters with FR echoes, or like any other character that will eventually get FR echoes. But yeah, there is positive to this. I think most of these FRs are still very interesting and good. And if the devs ever decide to actually start nerfing, which I wouldn't be against it. What fights were good where I would think that got me to really think about how to like strategize or think about the fight would been the Cloud Darkness 6-man fight where it was intricate enough and had many layers to the fight to where you had to kind of adapt, and having 6 characters to kind of play around with and kind of rotate with it is probably what the devs intended, and also I like to do, because you're not doing sticking with one strategy. You kind of have to adjust as you and react to it as the fight goes on. What do you
Yeah,
think?
that's one of
What
the
do you think?
last best fights. No, I agree. That was one of the last best fights that I always point to and say was fun. And that it felt like you said, there's a lot of intricate different layers. Like, oh, I have to switch to using, this unit for this part of the health bar. I crave challenges like that, but also, like you said, with the introduction of like echoes and stuff like that, we're not gonna have quite as much of a, oh, okay, I got 10 turns to do this, and then the boss gets to go back and do its thing. You could have 6 party members full of echoes now, so
Mm-hmm.
you're essentially dragging your FR stage another 12 turns at the max,
Yeah,
which is insane to think. Or well, not 12 turns; it would be
it'd be
11
a lot
turns,
more.
but
Yeah.
that's still insane to think. Yeah.
Um, I mean, some people will probably start thinking of like the bad fights, like Hope's when Hope's FR got introduced with the Battle of Velza, or however you say that boss's name. Yeah, it could be unfun and unfair at a certain point, but it does lock out quite a bit of characters. But I think it's still pretty fair once you know it becoming, for JP players who don't speak the language. We have, I mean, me and Zodi, we go into all these fights blind. We test out, we trial and error, and see what works and what doesn't work, and then until translations come up and we notice some gimmicks. With global, I mean, yeah, you guys might not probably struggle as much because you guys have the foresight, but then also you might get fights that are global exclusive that might like that will push you guys even more, because I've seen some of the global like exclusive fights and those are no joke, or are really difficult because they're making new content at that current difficulty, and you guys have and they have to adjust accordingly. Some of the OP characters that worked for JP or don't exist in JP or are going to like get counter, like Cam and Machina and Titus, and like exclusive event that might straight up be just like not be able to work, because and they might just be pushing this like whoever exclusive FR unit they might introduce if that happens.
Yeah, I could definitely see them doing that to push people to come up with new strategies.
I mean, Global is trying to do something with the Dare to Defy event. I mean, I personally don't think that is very interesting or is pushing people to really go for it, try to clear it. But I mean, I don't know. I don't play Global anymore, so I can't speak for that anymore. So disregard my opinion on that.
Yeah, I haven't attempted it yet because I'm waiting for more stages to open up. But from what I've heard, a lot of people have been coming up with some interesting strategies. It's just the amount of time they put through it, and I'm not complaining about the challenge. I'm not. I commend them. It's just
Yeah, kudos
like you said,
for completing difficult stages that we didn't have access to, and that shows that you're a good player. Truly,
no,
that's not
absolutely.
me
I've
being
seen a lot
sarcastic.
of no. I completely agree. I've seen a lot of lightning clears, which is it's nice to see.
Mm-hmm.
People found a unique niche for lightning and actually made her work. So all those people who greened it actually have a place they could use her.
Yeah.
But it's just like you said, they're getting these good challenge. Some of it, yeah, it's a bit of copy paste. It's the same event but with a lockout mechanic. It's still neat. I kind of wish they would have catered it more like the earlier events, but there is the Red Comet one, so hopefully that will be something unique and not super restrictive. But challenging, fun, fair. flex it. I mean, gives veterans a chance to flex their skills
Hmm.
and team compositions. But yeah, well, like you said, just that compared to the current offerings in JP seem, far more
Unappealing.
catered to giving the players some type of fresh new challenge. I just definitely wish the JP side would like give us some other stuff as well.
Yeah, because right
Like,
now
I'm
it's
not complaining. I'm
rehashed
glad
like content that is.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, time constraints, but whatnot. But I don't. But let's. I mean, with the big breaks and between events, let's hope that the time gap is enough for them to kind of be, you know, let their imaginations go wild and create new interesting content. That's me just crossing my fingers that the gap is enough for them to really go wild and test content and new, and then try to implement these anything new to get the players in like excited for to do these to log in every single day. But I think it's time to really I think it's time to address the elephant in the room that we've kind of been stepping around, which is FR Echoes. I think they are incredibly overpowered and don't think they are healthy for the game. I would have been perfectly fine with FR boards just being what they were, which is just increasing maybe one or two extra dumps for the FR and increasing the percentages on them to be kind of more in line with everyone else if they're pushing the damage ceiling to be like to go from, I don't know, 70 now with the new intended score to be 80 out of 100. But FR echoes are just now nuke buttons that make FR gauge even overpowered to now even more overpowered, because your FR Echo now is the strongest hitting move in the game. I mean, I thought BT finishers were going to be strong, but now these take the cake. What do you think, Zodi?
Yeah, no. I agree. They do. They are way too forgiving with the percentage. At least a lot of them, how they interact with different other characters. Regular FR phases. I understand they're probably trying to do this as a method to push out some of the older units and shuffle up the meta a bit, but at the same time, like you said, they had to. I don't know. There's not much of a. I mean, the only drawback to it is you don't get one FR phase, but just the amount of time you can extend a maxed out FR is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one turn might not sound like much on paper,
But it's
but if you
enough to.
have a bunch of follow-ups and heck, if you throw some traps in the mix, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of damage you can do in one
When
turn.
you think about one extra like free FR turn that doesn't make the duration go down, you also have to think about the fact that your FR echo is increasing the FR by at least minimum astronomical amount, like 50% might not seem much, but going from 800% to 850 is huge, and or being at over 900% just means that your characters are dealing out an extended amount of like damage, going from like 80 million or now 100 million in one action is strong enough as is. If FR Echoes didn't extend your FR duration or keep it free by that, I would have been like, okay, it's another nuke that if you can, that gives other characters a chance in the FR phase. But
Yeah, no, absolutely. If it was just used like that for supports, it would have been much better. Just to help out supports, not just supports, but it would have been an option, like you said, like a nuke option they could push just to contribute something.
or share the limelight with the spotlight with other characters in the party, not just one character's like taking up all the glory. But at the end of the day, what makes it appealing is seeing big numbers, and seeing big damage numbers is very gratifying to see, because who doesn't like seeing big damage numbers and being able to one-shot a boss with like enough experience? But at the end of the day, if you're doing it every fight, I don't know about that.
No, I agree. And another thing too is it before you had to choose between going into your BT phase and going into your summon phase. Now you can do both.
So you do both,
Now
and
you can,
with enough FR
and then
echoes on the team with like Kane, you're gonna there's 3 characters with FR echoes, and it's a turn rate. You're just going to be able to sit there in the like 999% FR phase at this meet the bosses. What I'm expecting to happen is devs are going to keep pushing the HP farther and farther up. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I like at the quarter point of FR boards being released to the party for the roster is that bosses have 1,000,000,000 HP. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
I wouldn't either, especially by the end of this year. I would expect somewhere in the billions. I know that sounds like an overstatement, but considering how how powerful they are, they gotta compensate for our summons being boosted. They gotta compensate for this eventual crystal level 100 they keep teasing us with,
Yeah, Tifa
and what
being
that
able
will
to deal. I
entail.
mean, at max, my Tifa is able to deal 135 million damage with not even with FR Echo, just like with her EX, which is enough like 7 dumps plus her BT follow up, which is like another like I don't know 6 dumps, 7 dumps. That's enough.
Yeah. No, it's like a stupidly high amount. I mean, I'm glad she's good, but they could have tuned her a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean,
like I'm happy to see her like performing well, but at the same time, it's like, that's a lot of damage. They should have, had some form of foresight. They always say they do.
I mean, I would have been fine if the BT follow up only was part of like the base kit, like the EX, the 15, 35, and even HP attacks, not being an LD, I guess, but not being able to be included in FR attacks. I mean, they always try to limit FRs as is with some. I mean, I guess Drago's the only one. Let me be real. Drago's the only one who got the quote-unquote short end of the stick with his FR not being able to be repeated with his dual cast, but oh well.
That would have been cool if he could have did that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think FR should have been only boosting characters with their base skills and not include chase damage being multiplied by that, or follow-ups, only what's in the actual turn, not off-turn damage or anything like that. I guess only for certain characters where their follow-ups is only boosted, not anyone else's other follow-ups. Kind of like limited like that. Like let's say Celeste, for example, her counter, like her trap debuff going off, I think that would have been fine if that was included in like the FR percentages, but not taking into account like or Kane not being able to increase it on with as well, or just like tanking or whatever, if the tank is the only one taking damage, not anyone else. But
yeah,
this is just us ranting about it, because I think it should be addressed, even if it's not going to be an unpopular opinion.
Yeah, because it's just gonna end up being, like you said, it's just gonna be just a bunch of boosters upon boost upon boost, and there's it just strips away a layer of strategy, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm like doom boasting or whatnot, because I'm not. I love the game as much as the next person. It just all these like unique team comps you could do, all these options are like, what's the point when you can just echo to win? And even if you don't bowl for everything,
even if you don't want to press,
you're gonna be doing that eventually.
If you're kind of pressured to use these these strong mechanics, because bosses are going to push back in response, even if like we don't want them to, or devs just will have or should push back in response to make it so that you see the mechanics of these interesting fights.
Agreed.
And I mean, I don't think that's a necessarily. I mean, yeah, it's like a push and pull kind of thing. Like the players get increased damage, like damage ceiling goes higher. The devs have to, add steps to their ladder to kind of like compensate, and then eventually our ladders or our ceiling is to the moon at this point, and the devs will have to keep pushing their ceilings to, I don't know, to Mars or something exaggerated, but that's just how it's going to be. They're going to keep on increasing until the norm is going to be like, hey, if you ain't dealing 5 million damage without FRs, then that's how it's going to be eventually. But I don't know, I think we're done enough like ranting and complaining. What do you think, Zodi?
Yeah, no, I think we touched a lot of the points of our, concerns about the direction of the game or our grievances with some of the things that they've done and whatnot. Again, it's no hatred towards any characters or whatnot, because if we didn't care about the game or at least had any liking of it, I don't think we would have been as passionate or bringing stuff up. So it's no hate. We want to see the game succeed at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm still gonna play the game no matter what because I still like the game, and I wouldn't have been able to transition to JP as easily if I didn't like all the cool shiny toys that we got. And then also I can brag about to all my other friends how big numbers I can deal, and being able to beat the fights in like faster than they can. But
yeah,
I mean, I like that bragging.
Those are always fun to do.
But anything else you want to include on this before I close out the video?
I mean, you pretty much mentioned about, Tifa and that, so I can't think of any additional thoughts other than I do think one of the characters we didn't mention that I am fearing the BT of is like Anna Crow, and if they don't find some way to nerf her, I think once her BT comes out, that's gonna destroy the game. That's my little random comment I'm gonna make from using her instead of Tifa.
Yeah.
Is
Worst comes to worst,
they need to get that god in control.
Yeah, worst comes to worst, they can
she's
do
out of
the
control.
unpopular thing, which is what they did with Paladins also back in the day, which was make fights pretty much wholly absorb, or I mean, I'm not a fan of locking out Holy and Dark if it can. It's kind of unintentionally locks out characters like Dark Knight Cecil and Paladin Cecil and Vaughn. I mean, there's a list along this all this stuff, which I'm not a big fan of, like the devs locking out every single element except the boosted ones that the new character has. But if that makes the character more appealing, then okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's what I was gonna say. I completely agree with you. It's just at that point, it's like, why pull for elements?
Yeah, it may sound like me and Zodi don't have anything to like disagree on, but I mean, before this we had some disagreements, but I think it's fine to have like agreeing and disagreements. But yeah, I think that's it. So thank you guys for listening, and I think I might be able to do this same topic with 40 whenever he gets free, so that I can hear from his perspective as well, because I'm sure you guys want to hear about it. But that would be for another time, and I'll put Zodi's links in the description if you want to check his content out and watch him stream or watch his clears on the game as well. But thank you, Zodi, for joining me on our complaining session on Mini Bantercast episode. Probably just call this like Bantercast, like half, like whatever, like episode 11 and a half.
No, you're very welcome, Blobs. I'm glad to be here as always, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening to our ranting and complaining. See you guys next time.